Good evening, chaps. It's Saturday evening, it's 7:10 and I'm just getting round to completing the video that I've shot for you this week. My capacitance meter has come, which has given me egg on my face, and it's not because I had an omelette for tea. What else has happened? I've recorded a nice little drive the other way this time, from Driffield to Langtoft, which I think is a more interesting drive, to be honest, but there you go. That was on my way out to Langtoft to pick the capacitors up, to test them with my new capacitance meter. And I've also made a few little surprising discoveries as well. And I also wanted to have a word about face masks, people wearing face masks. But I'm going to do you a little video showing the capacitance tester and how you test capacitors and how it's shown up my error, and let's talk about face masks. Very briefly, on a face mask, if you look down here, there's a number on it. I'll hold this up to the camera and see if you can read it. Right, what you're looking for is a number that says FFP and then a number. Now if you get a mask, an ordinary conical builder's mask that just fits over your face, that's FFP1 and it will be stamped on it. That gives you very little protection against vapour. An FFP2 mask, which this is an FFP2 with a breathe out valve on it, gives you a little better protection against vapour. Or you can go up another one and go to one of this type of mask. This is an old one, but it's the only FFP3 I've got. This is an FFP3 mask, which is a much tighter, fluffier weave. This gives you better protection against vapour. But all these masks, well, both of these masks, have an advantage, and that advantage is that they protect other people from you, should you be one of the people that's got very low or no symptoms but are spreading the COVID virus without knowing it. That's about it really, that's all I can say. I don't know how well these homemade masks work, but anything that stops you spreading the vapour, if it's coming out of you, is obviously a help. So I'll leave that at that. Right, I'm going to switch the camera around now so that it's looking down on the bench and you'll see my hands, and we'll do some capacitor testing. See you in a minute. Right chaps, this is a piece of video that's going to show up the drawbacks of using a GoPro, because I can't zoom in any further than that, and I've also found out that this capacitance meter, whilst it has a backlight which lights it up very nicely, the backlight doesn't stay on, and after a few seconds it fades out. But I think you can probably see that. So I've got this set up to test on the 200 nanofarad scale, right, and here is the capacitor from my TIG welder, which I thought was faulty. I'd tested it in every way I could think of. I'd put a voltage across it and tried to get it to charge up and react. I'd run it in series with the voltage to see if it passed any current. Nothing, nothing, nothing. And I came to the conclusion that it was faulty. Then I thought, you've always wanted one, why not buy one? Buy a capacitance meter. So I bought this capacitance meter. It's very cheap on eBay, and it works beautifully. The first thing you must remember whenever you test a capacitor is to always short it out first to dump any charge it's carrying, because if you put that charge across your meter, the chances are you'll damage it. So what we'll do here is we'll get something metal. Is that long enough? Yes. And we'll short it out like that. We'll short them both out just to dump any charge that's in them. Right, so let's have a look at this one first. This is supposed to be 002 microfarads, which is like a UF. A lot of people say UF, but it's actually, that's the sign for micro. So it's microfarads. So it should be 002. Right, because I'm on the scale below, this reads as 1.9, which is close enough. And that one, the one I took out of the welder, reads 2. So if I go up a scale, we're now reading at a much finer, what should I say, scale, right? And we've got 0.001. Well, in actual fact, if we had an extra digit on there, what we would probably say is the same as this one, which is 0019. Right? But they both read 01. And if you go on to a lower scale, you get 2 out of that one, and you get 1.9 out of that one. In other words, there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously there's nothing wrong with this one, it's brand new. And there was nothing wrong with the one I took off, which I assumed was faulty because I only had a multimeter to test it. So I've wasted 100 quid on trying to repair the TIG welder, and when we all return to normal and I get back to the workshop full time, I'm going to have to look for another fault. Now, whether that's going to be in the primary of the high frequency transformer or the secondary of the high frequency transformer, both of which I've tested and both of which seem to conform to the correct resistance, or whether it's a break somewhere in the HF resonator, I don't know. But I mean, it's very unlikely that there's a break in the HF resonator because it's thick copper, but you never know. I'm going to have to go through and test the circuit again. This is how you can lead yourself up the garden path, by not having the right test equipment. This was 13 quid. That was 109 quid with VAT. I should have bought this before I bought that. Right, let's just show you some other capacitors. This is a very ancient electrolytic, which is rated at 1 microfarad. Right, so we'll test this. We'll go on to the 2 microfarad scale. .283, which means it's a bit above what it should be. I'm just seeing if I can see a tolerance on it, which is usually given as a percentage. No, it's not marked with a tolerance. But 1.2, you could say that was probably close enough. So put that one down there. Here's another one. We'll sort this one out. Now this is an electrolytic, sorry, and this is rated at 470 microfarad. So we'll go up to 2000 microfarad. Let's see what we get in this one. Oops. Pick it up again. That's really about 530 microfarads, so that's quite high. So if that was in a critical circuit and you had a fault, that one I would replace. Right, let's have a look at these. This one is rated at 2.8 microfarads. So we'll just short it out. 2.8 microfarads. So we'll go to 20 microfarads. See what we get. 2.3. That's near enough. Now this one is rated at 2 microfarads. Short it out. Let's test this one. 0.77. That one's duff, right? That is way outside. Normally they have a tolerance written on them as a percentage, and that is plus or minus 5% of the given value. Right? Well, that one is a long way outside, so we can say straight away that that one is duff. And that's how you test capacitors. Obviously, as I get to use this, I'll learn more. But for 13 quid, it's a very nice little meter, and I'm sure it's going to be very, very useful. Now, whilst I was looking for capacitors to test, let's pop that over there, I found this little box, which, as far as I remember, was one of the little relics that I bought from the Abergavenny flea market. I used to go to Green Man Festival in Wales, and on Wednesday, well, I used to stay for the week. I used to stay for the whole week. The festival was at the weekend, and I used to go on the Monday, stay for the whole week. And I bought a load of stuff off the guy at the flea market, and he showed me this, and I looked at it and I thought, that's a multivibrator. Simple transistor circuit multivibrator. And basically, you can use them for all sorts, but and they're also part of any circuit that you want to generate a frequency, generate a tone. I think this is designed just as a signal injector. So you've got a black and white cable, which is battery positive negative, and you've got two wires here which chuck out a square wave signal. Now, I don't even know if it works, but the interesting thing is it's obviously made some long time ago with some very old-fashioned components. So I'm going to fire it up later and see if it works. But with it came this piece of paper which said on it, DC Whitfield, which I assume is the guy that made it, and C-Bank Works. Right, so if anybody knows anything about DC Whitfield or C-Bank Works, I'd love to know. And inside, in beautiful handwriting, it says, the multivibrator will operate satisfactorily with supply battery voltage between 1.5 and 9 volts. If you require about 1 volt output average, perhaps a 3 volt battery would be okay. Frequency with this battery will be between 1000 and 2000 pulses a second at a guess. And there's a little diagram of how to connect it up. So I shall put a battery to that later and see if it works, and I bet it does. But what a nice little thing. And I also came across, inside it, a loose resistor, the purpose of which I know not. But I looked at it and thought, oh, that's interesting. That's brown, black, red. It's a 3-ring one with silver is the tolerance. So that is brown, which is 1, black, which is 0, and red, which is 2. So that's a 1000 ohm resistor. And I thought, what can I do with a 1000 ohm resistor? And I thought, I can test the accuracy of my poxy little, had it about 20 years, bought from a local market stall, Kinzo 18D267 multimeter. Now, the leads fell off this, the test leads fell off it, I soldered new leads in. The wires came off the meter, I soldered those back on. I've cleaned the switch up several times to keep it working. Basically, it's the one I keep on my desk at home for testing batteries with. It's just, I just use it as a circuit tester. It's handy. I usually have another one in the boot of the car, and I keep my big Evo 8 at the workshop. So, but I mean that rides around in the boot of the car as well. So let's see how accurate it is. I was amazed. First thing you do with any multimeter, if you want to test the resistance accurately, is you put the leads together, you use a little control on the side to set it to 0. Well, I've already done that, and it's at 0 now. So what I'll do now is just connect it up, and we'll see what it reads. And I'll see if I can actually show you what it reads by putting the meter up to the camera. Right. there. I don't know if you can see that, but it's reading just over 1,000 ohms, which I must say completely gobsmacked me, because this meter, not only did it cost about, I don't know, less than £5. I bought it off a market stall, but I must have bought it off a market stall possibly in excess of 20 years ago. It's really had been kicked about, knocked around. It rattled around in the top of a toolbox for ages, and I had a similar but slightly better one, this, which had lasted me for years. And then one day my dad took it out. I was in business with my dad as electrical engineers after I left the place I served my apprenticeship. He took it out to a farm and he tried to test 3-phase with it, and of course it evaporated straight away. It's lucky he didn't as well, but there you go. So if you've got anything like this, don't test high voltages with it, they won't stand it, right? But just because it says, what does it say on this one? 500, it's got 500 volt setting on it. Don't test 500 volts with it. I wouldn't even test 250 volts with this, to be honest, but there you go. They're toys really, but look at it on the resistance, it's fairly accurate, and that surprised me. Right chaps, I think we'll call that it for today, and I'll wrap it up, and I'll stick the ride to Langtoft, which is about 6 or 7 minutes, on the end, and that's about all really. We're still in lockdown, obviously. We're setting up the roof garden, which I'll show you some of next week. Kath and the girls have been out on the roof today, planting a load of squashes and things well, transplanting them into the cold frame, and it's all gone very well. Kath only just managed to crawl back into the house, climbing over the high step into Emily's bedroom. I've tried to persuade all of them to come and be on video, but they won't because they're all camera shy. So there you go. I shall keep trying. Right, catch you all later. Bye now. Good morning, people. It's Saturday afternoon, 2:10, and I'm about to drive to the workshop to get some capacitors to experiment with my new capacity meter for measuring capacitance. So I thought I'd take you for a ride and show you the trip the other way, because it's probably a bit more interesting, and you get an impression of how steep the hill you go up is, rather than just coming down. Okay, off we go. Driving past the Moot Hill on our right here, and the old pinfold. One of the new developments in Driffield. On to the Scarborough Road. It was a bright sunny morning with clear blue skies this morning, but because I didn't get away till this afternoon, it's now sort of still bright but grey and overcast, and looks like rain. Right, the first two wind turbines you can see here, these are at Beale's Potatoes. at Great Kendall, and these two produce 77 kilowatts each at peak, which they won't be far off peak there. They do go a little bit faster than that, but not much. So you've got 154 kilowatts being generated there or thereabouts, and that helps with the electricity that they use on the farm, because they're on the end of a long line, and very often they used to get chronic voltage drop, and found that a lot of their machinery didn't work very well at all. Right, now if you can see that one on the horizon there, that one on the horizon is 225 kilowatts, which is almost a quarter of a megawatt, and that's going quite briskly as well. So we come around the Kendall bends, and then we start to rise up onto the Wolds. And even though this may seem quite a rapid drive, I'm only doing 60 miles an hour, honest officer. Once again, we're up on Darward Tops, as they call them around here. You can see how flat it is up here now. This is a Yorkshire water reservoir in this, just off to the left here. Highest point, it feeds Driffield, it feeds Sledmere, and it probably feeds into Langtops as well. Stockdale's the potatoes, big potato merchant. We all go now because they've been planting the potatoes here, there and everywhere. They grow a lot of potatoes in this area. And some sheep. Sheep had all but died out on these hills, and Killen, which is the next village to Langton, 2 miles from Langton, used to hold a sheep fair there going back into medieval times, and it was the biggest sheep fair in the north of England apparently. But sheep have died the death on these hills. They became uneconomical. Value dropped, and fleeces, the use of fleeces dropped, and hail pheasants out of the way, and it became really unviable to do anything with sheep at all. This farm that we're just passing on the right now used to fill this dale to the left with sheep. And they used to have a huge sheep fair and sheep sale there, and that hasn't happened for many years now. And here we come down Tyehoe. The hill's called Tyehoe, or Tyehoe, or Tyehoe, as in E-W-E, hill. And into the village. Round Tyehoe Corner, which is quite steep and sharp, and there's had quite a few accidents on it. does look black to the north. It looks like there's some weather coming. Never mind. Right, chaps. Bring you back a bit later and we'll do something else.